part 11, and this one is the one everyone's probably been waiting for since the very beginning of this whole thing. So it's not a lot of photos to show you, but it is a long story, so I'll try to get through it as best I can. One day, I was watching Heather shower, and she was, talking about how she didn't really want to wash her hair because the water was too cold, and I also watched her try to struggle with the stove, and the wind was blowing out the pilot light, and she had to use matches, and she burned her finger. Things were just accumulating. This wasn't, Heather wanted to go on this really awesome camping trip, but I don't think she realized exactly what was involved. Now, in fairness to Heather, because she's a sweetheart, I want you all to know she was really hacking it. Like, she was really doing it. I mean, she was going to get the water, taking the mountain showers, cooking the food. We would, do our dirty dishes at night by headlamp, lugging the wood. Heather was definitely she transformed into someone who could definitely hack it. So what took place had nothing to do with Heather's ability to go on the trip. More of just Jay being crazy and spontaneous and erratic, and that's just the way I am. And if you ever meet me, you'll figure that out. So one morning, I woke up and I was laying there thinking about how would it be possible for us to take Maggie and the kayak down to the Tetons so that we could actually go in the water. Well, I knew it wasn't possible because we'd have to pack our campsite up, we'd have to take everything, and then we'd leave the trailer, of course, but we'd take everything, and then when we come back, there'd be an RV in our spot. So I knew we were stuck where we were, and we'd taken some great rides on Little Coup, but it just wasn't enough. And I thought to myself, there has to be a way, without going out and buying a full-fledged RV, which was explored for the GIS people. If you remember in episode 1, we talked about that. To be able to do this, to be able to have all the stuff and have all the functionality and still be able to drop, take Maggie and go somewhere, go kayaking, go to a restaurant, go to a museum, go down the street and check something out without having to walk or drive the motorcycle. So I rolled over and I looked out my window and I'd heard some noise, and I'm not going to lie to you, some days we didn't exactly get up early in the morning. And I saw this. I don't remember the name of it, but you're saying, oh, well, look, it's an RV with a cargo trailer next to it. Yes and no. That cargo trailer is actually a fully functional, well, it depends on what your thoughts are behind this. You can either call it a CTC, which stands for cargo trailer conversion, or a tiny home. But the difference between a tiny home and a CTC usually has to do with the fact of the way they're built, because a CTC already has its walls and its ceiling and its wheels. A tiny home is built from scratch like a house, but just on a smaller base. But generally tiny homes, even the ones you see stationary, generally they have, if you go around the front or the sides, you'll see that they have wheels and a tongue on them. So they generally are built on trailer frames. But this was a fully functional camper. I know what you're thinking, 5 foot by what, 10? Yeah, it's like a 5 by 10. How could this thing possibly be fully functional? Well, let's take a little tour, because we talked to the owners and they were very, very nice. There's a shot of it from off the distance there. So to start up front, we have our toolbox with the tools and a generator. I think he said it was an older couple traveling in it. He said that the generator was in case Mama wanted to dry her hair. So I thought that was kind of funny. This is their table where they sit and have their dinner. It hooks to the tire. It's completely fold away and portable. Inside they had something called I believe this is a Max Air fan. I'm not 100% sure. I was absolutely shocked when I found out how much these things cost later on down the road. There you see they got their little inverter and their TV on the wall. You can kind of see the bed. It was a small space, so I don't know if I actually got a picture of the bed, but the bed is in there. There's the propane on the side to run their stove. This is their outdoor kitchen. There's a cooler. They got like a toaster oven, a portable stove, a place to cook their stuff, and a waffle iron. Underneath it, he had these jacks, these like stabilizer platforms to come down, and that actually completes the tour, but it doesn't complete the story. So now I had it in my eyes that if he could make this in a 5x10 trailer, what could I do with, you guessed it, the beluga or the Ballena, whichever you prefer, 6x12, 15 feet long by almost 9 feet wide with, if you could, outside dimensions. And all we were doing was lugging our crap around in it. We still had to dig for toilet paper. We still had to move things around. We still had to say, where's this, where's that, put all the food away. But what if we emptied it all out and built a true tiny home inside of it? Well, that day, literally that day, I took the gentleman that owned this trailer over to my trailer. I opened it up and he said, you have a lot of space, way more than we had. You could make so much out of this. Well, it didn't take Jay long to go from you could take so much out of this to scratch paper and notebook drawings, which is what started initially. But I said to myself, if I was going to do something like this, it would require carpentry, plumbing, insulation, electrical, solar, most likely solar, knowledge of DC, AC, welding, tanks, hoses, plumbing, all kinds of stuff that I had no idea what to do. Well, I said to myself, there's one man who knows how to do all of this stuff. He's just about 1,000 miles away. His name is Carl Kunzman. Now, full disclosure, me and Carl, as of this recording, are no longer friends. What took place out there was like nothing that anyone could ever have imagined or expected, ever. But I called Carl up and I say, hey, Carl, what are you doing? He said, nothing. I'm just taking care of my dad. I said, can I come to your ranch and bring a trailer and turn it into a tiny home? He said, sure. I said, I need you to weld a bunch of stuff for me, and then we're going to go to the junkyard and we're going to get the parts and we're going to get the all that stuff. And he said, okay, sure, I'll do it for you. One thing I learned in life is just because someone says they're going to do something doesn't mean they're actually going to follow through with it. Now, it's one thing to say you're going to do something and not follow through with it. It's another thing to put someone's life in jeopardy, someone's literal heartbeat and pulse on the line. And I will explain that to you guys in a couple episodes. So you do want to stick around. This isn't over by a long shot. But now you know where the beginnings of the Tiny Wanderer came from. Now you know the seed that was planted to create this amazing rolling work of art, I guess. But we had to get there. Gabby had just left to go to Yellowstone. Chris and Teresa and Trenton and his sister had rolled out. And the campground, we had been there 6-7 days. So we were either going to Yellowstone, which if you watched the video before this, you know we did go to Yellowstone and you know what happened. And so we did. We did go to Yellowstone briefly, and we didn't stay because of events explained in part 10. You can go check that out. And we had to get to Carl. Now, what I haven't told you guys all along is that although we had brakes on the trailer, they were not functioning the whole time that we were going to the Tetons. So the first stop would be Cedar City, where we would meet up with Danny and Bracken at Jolly's Trailer Sales, and they would check out why the brakes were not functioning. I had thought that we had maybe cut a wire on something when we were going through the forest road, or maybe something shorted out, they didn't hook up properly, but I was willing to try anything to get it working. Because one of the places we had to go to get to Cedar City is we had to go through Idaho over the Teton Pass. Now, it's one thing to ride down a road without brakes. It's a whole other thing to go down the Teton Pass without brakes on a trailer, especially one with all that weight in it pushing the SUV down the hill. We did it though, we did it. And that'll bring us to part 12, where we will, in fact, make our way back to Cedar. And then from there, we will head to Carl's in Prescott Valley, Arizona, where we will start the assembly of the Tiny Wanderer, or so we thought. But we'll explain more of that in a couple episodes. Thank you guys for being patient. I hope you've enjoyed the ride so far. Now you know about the Tiny Wanderer and what started it all. I want to give a special, very special, loving dedication to Heather Kenny of Baltimore, Maryland. Heather, if you're listening, I want you to know that I love you as a friend. You are an amazing woman, very special to me. I couldn't have done it without you, Heather. Every time I even look in the Tiny Wanderer, do a dish, turn on the solar, look at the cabinets. I think of you, and I think of all the work and the sacrifice you made for this. And I want you and everyone to know, as God is my witness, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you're well, and I hope you travel safe, and I hope you're loved. Okay, guys, I will see you guys in part 12 when we journey back to Cedar City, where we bought the trailer, to find out what's wrong with the brakes, have a little bit of rest and relaxation before we punch our way down to Prescott Valley, Arizona to start building the Tiny Wanderer. Okay, guys, see you then.